Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and thanks again for joining us this week. My name is Laura McNeil. I'm a Sterling Master Examiner. I'd like to welcome everyone to the 5th session of the Sterling Core Values Leadership Series. As you know, each of the 11 sessions in this series is designed to highlight a Sterling core value in a 7-minute leadership brief that is followed by a Q&A session. We are replacing these videos, we're recording them and placing them on YouTube. Just to remind everyone, the core values of an organization are those values we hold which form the foundation on which we perform our work and conduct ourselves. The core values are really the basic elements of how we go about our work each and every day. They are the practices that we use, or the practices that we should be using in everything that we do every day. So today's core value is focusing on success and innovation, featuring the one and only Sterling Master Examiner, Bob Medeiros. He is the CEO of Nature's Coast Quality Associates, LLC. And one more thing before I turn it over to Bob, for his 7-minute leadership brief, I just want to remind everyone to make sure to put any questions you may have into chat so we can tee those up for Bob after his 7-minute session. All right, Bob, do you want to go ahead and take us away?
Well, thank you very much, Laura. And as Laura said, today, our core value discussion will be a focus on success and innovation. So we're right now about halfway through this series. So this is trying to reinforce that the Sterling criteria builds on this foundation of core values, which are embedded in systematic processes, those process categories 1 through 6, and yield those performance results, category 7, which is necessary for success in your industry. So why a focus on success and innovation? Well, for organizations to truly be successful, they must have a future vision to sustain this success both now, but also in the future. Now, this requires balancing both short and long-term stakeholder needs. And that's not even often easy to do. You also need to ensure resilience. As Bob mentioned last week, we need to develop our leaders, our workforce, and our suppliers. And from a resilience standpoint, we also need to have effective succession planning in order to be agile. As he mentioned last week, you don't want to just bounce back after having an issue. You want to bounce forward. And then we build on that, an innovation system into your entire organization. So let's see, we got a chart here. According to the American Association for the Advancement of Science, it's a very busy chart, but let me summarize. The newest data we have from 2019, which was the most recent year that data is available, the total number of research and development spending as a country surpassed 3% of our gross domestic product for the first time ever. So this measure, we'll call it R&D intensity. It's really a measure of investing in the future. Now, how does your organization balance short and long-term factors? How much do you invest in that next big thing? Because your competitor is investing in the future, so you best be. An interesting quote here from Sir Winston Churchill: "Success is walking from failure to failure with no loss of enthusiasm." As John Cuven shared during our visionary leadership session at the beginning, it all starts with your leadership. Be bold. Leadership sets that culture of success. It builds upon that through the development of strategic opportunities that are shared across the entire organization. Now, these opportunities are what differentiate you from the other guy. And then you incorporate this into an innovation system that is really part of your organization's DNA. So let's talk a little bit about innovation. We got an interesting little graphic there about how people are embracing innovation or not. But just an interesting statistic, 84% of global business executives believe that innovation is paramount to their growth strategies. Now, it's important to differentiate between continuous improvement and that breakthrough performance improvement of innovation. Innovation tends to be discontinuous, these breakthrough changes in your output. It creates new value for your stakeholder. It's applying new ideas, processes, techniques, technologies, or even business models that are either new or new to that particular application. Now, leadership establishes this supporting environment and then works it into your strategic opportunities, and then includes a system for the pursuit of intelligent risk. It's often easier to see innovation in products, but sometimes even more impactful are those changes to the processes or even your business model. Let's look at some examples of innovation. First, some that triggered a paradigm shift within their industry. I'll start with Apple. The ubiquitous iPod came out in 2001, really revolutionized portable music. iPhone came out in 2007. Then there's Netflix, and I think this is an interesting one. We went from Blockbuster Video, which came out in 1985, from that brick and mortar DVD rental store. And Netflix came along and innovated the whole DVD delivery system, first by mail, 1997, and then innovated further by streaming service in 2007, ultimately having original programming in 2013. Now, some innovation makes what's old new again. An example is Nest revolutionized that stagnant thermostat industry, something we all use, and asked, how can we make it much, much better? They tuned into public demand and were so successful that Google bought them. And then finally here, Polaroid, which used to be this clunky instant camera, and then everything went digital. And rather than just die, they rebranded it for the millennials, which is now this kitschy, cool, and popular device. Well, let's see. We've got an interesting quote here from Henry Ford. That's kind of counter to our appreciation of a focus on customer that Debbie Voss discussed earlier. But he says, if I had asked the public what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse. Now, innovation creates value for our customer, but sometimes you need to have that vision to recognize and anticipate the customer demand. Otherwise, we'd be designing faster horses. Well, to summarize what we've talked through these last few minutes, focus on success and innovation requires an organization to have, in order to have sustainable success, both now and in the future, you need to balance short and long-term stakeholder needs. And those include your customer, your workforce, your supplier, even your community. And then with the vision of resilience, having this agile system that can react to changes. And include in that this innovation system that spans the entire organization. Well, that concludes our topic for today. Let me hand back off to Laura.
Thanks, Bob. That was really very insightful. In fact, I don't think I've ever heard that Winston Churchill quote. I love that. Defining success as walking from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm. I actually wrote it down. Thank you for that. And then, your paradigm shift on Netflix that you highlighted also made me think a little bit about Redbox and how streaming has also impacted that trend as well. I think really Redbox revolutionized that whole Blockbuster, and and then Netflix came around and had a little bit more of a hand in it. So pretty interesting. Yep. So I actually did take some notes as you were talking. This is how I would summarize what we just went over and make sure I got it right. First bullet would be make sure to balance short and longer term objectives when you are defining success criteria. Ensure your organization has a system for the discovery and handling of innovation. Anticipate your customers' needs, expectations, and demands. And lastly, establish a system for intelligent risk-taking. Is that right?
Sounds very good. Well done.
All right. Well, I just want to remind folks that we do, have time to take some questions. So if you have any, please submit them through chat. And I also want to mention that we've had a number of requests for copies of my summary notes. So I'm pretty flattered by that. And we'll be pulling that together and putting those out on the floridasterling.com website for everyone to access and take a look at. All right, so I do have one question teed up actually, and I have one in the chat, but we'll do the one that's been teed up previously. And this one is, Bob, do you have any good examples or techniques for ensuring resilience?
Well, that's a really good question. So some techniques for resilience, and again, that's having your organization designed so that it can handle external inputs and survive it. Some techniques I'd say would be having a comprehensive succession planning, not just of the leaders, but also key positions, so that if you're resilient against change within the organization, but also having another example would be having an effective business continuity plan for those external factors like hurricanes or pandemics that come along and can really impact your operation. And then finally, building agility, because resilience really ties in with agility, to be able to have your strategic planning process agile enough to make changes easily, have a very agile action plan modification process. It's, not to be a criteria wonk, but 2.2B of the criteria.
Yeah, pretty good. And actually, interestingly enough, this question is appropriately timed because next week we'll have Anthony Napolitano with us to talk about agility and resilience. So perfect timing on that one. Here's a question came through chat. What would you recommend that each of us do today to try to support innovation in our organizations?
Wow, that's a good question. Today, if you don't already have it built into your system, is work to develop that, because innovation really needs to link across the entire organization. It can't just be this Department of Innovation over here in the corner. It needs to be part of your strategic planning. It needs to be part of your process improvement system, to be able to look at what's out there that we can do that can really make that key jump in performance to our customers, either in our products, our services, the systems, or the processes that we use. So it's really starting to build that into the DNA of your organization.
Yeah, I would think that baking it into your leadership system would be key as well. What a great way to get those leaders involved as things are cycling through and innovative ideas come to light. Yeah, get them involved on the front end. Okay, here's another one. Are there organizations that you're aware of, Bob, who heavily invest in R&D for the greatest ROO? I'm assuming that ROO is return on outcomes or outputs or operating.
Yeah, I don't have any specific examples of organizations that really put a lot of money up front in R&D, but you see some of them out there that really do. Like my brain is going towards SpaceX as an example, which totally took a completely innovative approach towards commercial launch vehicles and invested in how do we get back so much more of that product to use again, rather than just letting it burn up on reentry. And so there's an example of an organization that just went totally headlong into innovative approaches.
I can think of it, and I'm not surprised, Bob, that you didn't think of these other things, because your background as a rocket scientist, of course, teed you up to speak of Elon Musk. But the two companies, given my background, that I think about are like pharmaceuticals. Maybe pharmaceuticals are their life, and I think their bread and butter is really kind of based on what they come up with from an R&D. And you spoke earlier in your talk about your competitors working on something, right? I mean, we see this even with the COVID vaccines. Additionally, I would say pharmaceuticals, and then I had another thought and I lost the thought. So we're going to go to the next question, and if the thought circles back, I'll share that with you too. But yeah, R&D is an interesting it's an interesting investment. If some companies, if you're not investing in it, then you really, you're not really keeping your platform as current as you can. So here's another one. Are you aware of any recommended books to read on innovation in corporate America, in corporate?
Wow, that is a really good question. I don't personally know of any on innovation. Anyone else out there that may have done some really cool reading on innovation lately and love to share?
So there's an author by the name of Christian Christensen, if I remember correctly. I'm not sure if I have that name right, but he's put some really good books out there on innovation. There's also, a host of books that you can read by Jim Collins. He's the Good to Great guy in Built to Last. And there's, these are culturally impactful type of books that really help you, develop a platform. Okay, so I think we are out of time. In fact, we are actually over time. Thank you everyone for joining. I just want to remind everyone that next week's 7-Minute Sterling Core Values Leadership Series will be on agility and resiliency. And we will be featuring Sterling Master Examiner Anthony Napolitano. He is the lead IT governance and process improvement specialist at DTCC. I hope you all have a terrific day, and thank you once again for spending some time with us.